no, they're down below. I can see them from my veranda when I'm, So, don't want to become a cat or a dog. Of course, if I became Krishna's cat or dog, that would be different, but that's a very high expectation, huh? Okay, so let's see. Okay. I have decided to start studying, which I've never done in a class that I was leading, Manasiksha. I want to go through the whole Manasiksha. Very appropriate after hearing what we've been hearing. What is the goal and all of that. And connecting with that is Upadeshamrita. And this is the version which Madhukar alerted me to when I was still in Badger, where it's included in here 12 essays on shlokas 2 and 3 by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur that was printed in his Sajjanatoshani or something. 12 essays on the 6 favorable and the 6 unfavorable. And he goes into great depth. So it's very, very... It's us, Gurudev. It was added after Gurudev went into Nitya, as far as I know. Maybe I don't know the Hindi version. We'd have to ask Madhukar. Madhukar will know. It's just the Upadeshamrita, the ambrosial advice of Srila Rupa Goswami. And then at the bottom it says, with 12 essays on verses 2 and 3 by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj publication. And this was... wow, so small print. Does this light go on? This other bulb now, or not? Only that one? Okay. No, it doesn't go on. So, all right, 3rd edition, 2nd printing in September of 2021. Yeah, that's when I was there in Badger. And so, but it was actually the 3rd printing was in 2018, and then they reprinted in 2021, 1,000 copies each time. So, this is a very big feast meal on our plate that we have to relish each morsel, I'm going to do it in a kind of more spontaneous way. I'm not going to go through the whole Upadeshamrita, but especially the last verses. And I wanted to read the 8th shloka. I've done that on my own already. I've reread the 8th shloka and some of the first shlokas, because I want to again study the 3 purports. Well, 4. Prabhupada's, and then, Srila Radharaman Charan, who was the first commentator a few hundred years ago, then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So that's what we will do. And okay, so you can arm yourself with kartals for the kirtan. Can give a pair to Bopadev, unless you want to play gong. You want to play gong? No. You're not a gong type person, are you? You like kartals.
Play any instrument, but
yeah.
I'd rather play kartal.
That was a Freudian slip just now. I only learned the mridanga on my first day in the temple. 1 beat. Remember that one? No. Ta'e o kanak, ta'e o tanakate ditya de. Tini ta. Ta'e o kanakate ditya de. And that's what everybody played. Everybody played that in the beginning for the first few years until devotees went to India, and then they started learning, you know. But really, our generation, we were lost. We just played spontaneously. Vishnu Jan was just a musician to the core. So he did astonishing mridanga beats that he made up himself and improvised. But we all improvised, you know. But then when I came to India, and I stayed in 77 in Mayapur as a brahmachari, and that, you know, and then eventually I went to Vrindavan to be with Prabhupada in the end. But there, a devotee taught me a couple of beats that the Mridangawalas always teach to their new students, that they have to practice for 6 months before they really start teaching them. They have to practice these beats. And you know what one is? Te re ke ta, te re ke ta, te re ke ta, te re ke ta. Like that. That's one beat. Te re ke ta, te re ke ta, te re ke ta. If I started playing it, then I could go fast again, but I haven't done that for a long time. Then there's another one that has te re ke ta with it. How did that go?
They did that here, the school did that.
Yeah?
For the birthday of Maharaj.
Srila Vamanamar? No.
Upstairs.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We had the school here,
Mm.
and then again, we had the school here for Govardhan Puja, and they performed the...
Oh, they performed.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Oh, okay. As it was a te re keta, te re keta, te re keta, te re keta. So then there's the only other. This is the second one, and I learned 3. Te re keta ja. Wait, te re keta ja. I'd have to learn it again. I have to remind myself. But there was only 3 beats that I learned, and it completely changed my whole mridanga playing. And it made my hands move how they're supposed to move, you know, because the right hand, you can tell if somebody has learned how to play mridanga by what they do with their right hand. And the way that all the ISKCON devotees used to like slap it and blah, 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 you know. But it's a very, you know, sophisticated movement of the wrists. And when you practice te re keta, te re keta, te re keta, it loosens up your wrists and makes you capable of playing. That's why the Mridanga masters require 6 months of te re keta. Because then after that, then they can start learning all the different talas and beats. But our young devotees, they all learned mixed all together, you know, in Gaudiya Math. And they have some excellent mridanga players. But practically no one is as good, in my estimation and Madhukar's estimation, as Kishore. Kishore was a teacher, and he learned in Gurukul, and he studied, and he just like, his mridanga playing. And when you watch him play, you won't see all the showy stuff and all the fancy stuff and this and that. His expertise is exactly what beat should be played perfectly at which time, and then how to speed up and all of that. He's the best. I experienced that because when I sing and I have a mridanga player playing, I can tell. You know, Madhukar is very excellent also, but he himself admits he's nowhere near Kishore. You know, so.
Kishore was his teacher.
Yeah, he was also teaching mridanga, but he very carefully he learned, and he has the talent and he has the heart. You know, mridanga is the heartbeat, you know, of the kirtan. It's the heartbeat. So a person who's the excellent mridanga player can play perfectly according to the mood of the kirtan and the heartbeat, you know. Okay, let's put the microphone. The microphone should always be put over there. The microphone should always be put over there at Rishabh Dev Prabhu, because he's the person that starts off the class by saying the Jayadvani. You have to bring it up close to the mouth so the people online can also hear it. Mm-mm. No. You got to put it up on the. Yeah. See, but when you put this too long, then it becomes imbalanced. There's too much weight. But anyway, that's a tiny little microphone. Okay. Jai. Jai. Ki Jai. 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 Ki Jai. Jai. Maharaj Ki Jai. 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 De Hari Hari Bo. Did he reply, Madhukar? Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jutaha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Om Ajnanathimmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Astachadesata Namo Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Narayaniti Namane Shri Krishna Lila Katane Sudaksham Audarya Madhurya Varam Varenyam Purusham Mahantam Parayanam Tam Shirasha Namam Tridandinam Bhakta Shiromanim Cha Krishna Padabja Dritaika Hridi Chaitanya Lilam Rita Sarasaram Narayanam Tam Satatam Prapadye Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswaminiti Nam Namo Vishnupadaya Acharya Singha Rupane Shishimad Bhakti Pragyana Keshaveti Namane Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namane Namo Gaura Kisharaya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Nam Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachidananda Namane Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupa Nugavarayate Gaura Virbhava Bhumestvam Nirdeshta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannataya Te Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patita Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Naya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaura Trishe Nama Nityanandam Namastubhyam Premananda Pradayane Kalo Kalmashanashaya Janava Pataye Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Jayatam Suruto Pangor Mama Mandamater Gati Matsarvasva Padambojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyat Vrindaranya Kalpadrumadha Shrimad Ratna Sagara Singhasanasto Shrimad Radha Srila Govinda Deva Prishtalibhi Sevyamano Smarami Shriman Rasarasarambi Vam Shivata Tatakstitaha Karshan Venu Svanayar Gopir Gopinata Shriyestuna Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Kshiptascha Kamadi Taranga Madhye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanara Vindam Vrindai Tulsi Debai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sansaradhava nalalidha loka Tranaya karuna gana ganatvam Samsaradhava nalalidha loka Tranaya karunya gana ganatvam Samsaradhava nalalidha loka Tranaya karuna gana ganatvam Daloka Tranaya karuna gana ganatvam Praptasya kalyana gunanavasya Vande Guru Sri Charana Ravindam Tasya kalyana gunanavasya Vande Guru Sri Charana Ravindam Vande Guru Sri Charana Ravindam Vande Guru Sri Charana Ravindam Mahaprabhu ki Tanandritya Gita Varitramadyan Manasasena Mahaprabhu ki Tanandritya Gita Varitramadyan Romanchakam Pashrutaranga Vajo Vande Guru Sri Charanarabindam Shri Vigrahara Ananityanana Sringarathanman Diramarjanado Shri Vigrahara Ananityanana Sringarathanman Diramarjanado Yuktasya bhaktam Chaniyunjatoki Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam Yuktasya bhaktam Chaniyunjatoki Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam Chaturvida Sri Bhagavat Prasado Sadhanatriptam Haribhakta Sangam Chaturvida Bhagavat Prasadam Sadhanatriptam Haribhakta Sangam Kritaiva Triptim Vajada Sadaiva Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Sri Radhika Madhavayorapara Madhurya Lila Gunarupa Nam Shri Radhika Madhavayorapara Madhurya Lila Gunarupa Nam Praktikshanasa Vanalolupasya Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam Praktikshanasa Nikunjayuno Ratikeli Siddhyaye Yayali Bijutira Bhekshaniya Nikunjayo Ratikeli Siddhyaye Yayali Bijutira Bhekshaniya Tatra Didakshad Ati Vallabhasya Pande Guru Sri Charanarvindam Tatra Sakshat Harite Nasamasta Shastrai Ruktastata Bhavyata Iva Sadabhi Sakshat Harite Nasamasta Shastrai Ruktastata Kintu Prapuya Priya Devatasya Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam Kintu Prapuya Priya Devatasya Yasya Prasadad Bhagavat Prasado Yasya Prasada Nagati Gutopi Yasya Prasada Yasya Prasada Nagati Gutopi Tayam Stuvam Stasya Yashastri Sandhyam Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam 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 Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Guru Parampara, Guru Parampara, Parampara, Guru Parampara. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Govinda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Rupa Sanatan, Rupa Sanatan, Rupa Sanatan, Jaya Rupa Sanatan. Jaya Rupa Raghunath, Rupa Raghunath, Rupa Raghunath, Jaya Rupa Raghunath. Hari Haraya Namah, Krishna Yadavaya Namah, Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namah, Gopal Govinda Ram Madhusudan, Gopal Govinda Ram Hari Gopinath Mata Mohan, Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gopta, Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita, Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Diva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath, Nichai Gosai Hari Charana Vandan, Jaha Hoite Vignanash Adishta Pura, Ichai Gosai Jar Nitaroda, Tan Sabar Badarino Mor Panchadra, Kanyara Sadana Sevi Bhakta Sanivas, Janame Hoy E Abhilash, Jai Gosai Jagi Jai Koi Lovan, Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Kurila Pradhan, Anande Bolo Hari Bata Vrindavan, Shri Guru Vaishnava Pati Majayama, Shri Guru Vaishnava Pada Padma Koriya, Nam Sankirtan Kohi Naro Samoya, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radhe. Hare Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Radhe. Jaya Radha Vinodi Hari, Radha Vinodi Hari, Radhe. Jaya Gandharvika Giridhari, Gandharvika Giridhari, Radhe. Gandharvika Giridhari, Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe. Jaya Nitai, Jaya Gaur, Jaya Nitai, Jaya Gaur. Nitai Gaur, Hari Gaur, Hari Gaur, Hari Gaur, Hari Gaur. Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. Jai Shri Ekadasi Titi Ki Jai, Shri Madhava Titi Ki Jai, Ekadasi Vrat Ki Jai, Ratan Palan Kori Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. Shri Navadvip Dham Ki. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Itadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. My Dandavat pranams at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Gurudev, Nitya Leela Prabhishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Asto Tarashata Sri Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. And then I'm offering my Dandavat pranams to the lotus feet of my beloved Siksha Gurudevs, Nitya Leela Prabhishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Asto Tarashata Sri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj and Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Asto Tarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayanam Goswami Maharaj. I offer my Dandavat pranams at the lotus feet of all of my Sri Sri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga, and my Dandavat pranams to all the Vaishnavas, and to all the Vaishnavis. So as I mentioned, I want to study these two books. Sri Upadeshamrita by Srila Rupa Goswami, who heard this directly from the lotus mouth of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then he wrote the shlokas. He heard that on the shore of the ocean in Jagannath Puri. And Sri Manasiksha by Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, who is the chief of all the followers of Srila Rupa Goswami. And he is the Prayojan Tattva Acharya of our Rupanuga Sampradaya. So these two books are invaluable. And although they each contain 11 shlokas, and in Manasiksha I think there's a 12th shloka for the Falashruti, if I'm not mistaken. But condensed within these 22 shlokas, 21 shlokas, is everything that we need to know in order to become the recipients of what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda, all their associates, what they descended to give to the jivas in this Danya Kali Yuga. Everything is contained within these two books, and that is why Srila Gurudev used to say that there are 4 books that are all important. Upadeshamrita, Manasiksha, Sikshastakam book with the commentaries, and Bhajan Rahasya. Gurudev said these are our books to be studied continually throughout our sojourn in this body, as we attempt to become sadhaks. And these are our guidebooks. These are our guidebooks through which we can also check ourselves. Am I on the path? Am I actually following the path? The path is put forward in the Upadeshamrita, in the first 8 shlokas particularly. Yes. And if someone can follow those 8 shlokas, then they will be able to successfully begin to enter into the process of Rag Marg Bhakti, in which the last 3 shlokas, 9, 10, 11, by Rupa Goswami are describing Srimati Radhika, how beloved she is to Krishna, and her Kunda, Radha Kunda, which is the topmost place of all places, topmost location of any location. I remember in 1975, when we were doing the marathon book publication in Los Angeles that Srila Prabhupada wanted done. I've spoken about this before. It's 18 books in 2 months. Right after we completed that, guess what we worked on? Upadeshamrita, which Prabhupada titled The Nectar of Instruction. We didn't have that book yet. Remember? We did not have the Upadeshamrita. That means for the first 10 years of Prabhupada's preaching in the West, we got the Upadeshamrita, and then we only had it for 2 years. We never had the Manasiksha, which is the next book that you read and you follow after Sri Upadeshamrita, until we came to Srila Gurudev. And then we got the Upadeshamrita with the commentaries of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Yes? Yeah. And then Gurudev's additional comments in there.
I don't think Manasiksha has Srila Bhaktisiddhanta.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I had to. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and then Srila Gurudev. And for the first, I think, 4 shlokas, Srila Gurudev, they actually transcribed an entire lecture that he gave on each one of the first 4 shlokas, and that's included in the purport, after the purport of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, or maybe, no, before actually, and then after that. So, and then of course, the remaining shlokas are the purports of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and then Gurudev's commentary on that. So, we didn't have Upadesha, we didn't have Manasiksha, but then we got Upadeshamrita, and when I began to read it, and it's only 11 verses, not only did I begin to read it, I'm the one that did the layout for the first cover with the picture of Rupa Goswami's Samadhi on the cover, and the back is the Radha Kund and Shama Kund. I did that layout of the cover, but it's not like a big design project, it's just simply putting the picture there. So, and then I began to look at the book, and as I'm helping to lay out the book, it didn't take long, for we had a team of like 3 different layout artists by that time. But then as I began to look at it, I thought, wow, this is really important. We didn't know of the existence of Upadeshamrita. But suddenly when Prabhupada gave it to the world, you know, I can speculate, and I have speculated. It's all we can do, really, that I know of, unless Prabhupada explained it somewhere, or one of our acharyas explained it. But why he waited until 1975 to give Upadeshamrita? It's a good question to ask. And if I speculate, I come up with, I don't know, 2 or 3 answers. One being that, as I told the other day, the quotation from Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj on the other day in Mayapur, from a lecture that I heard, but I'd heard this before, but Mukunda Prabhu gave an outstanding lecture. I'll share it with you. It's actually an amazing lecture that he gave in Alachua. Some recently on Facebook, and I looked at that and then I started to listen to it. He really brought up a lot of beautiful points and quotations from Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And he settled, by the quotations of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, the absolute certainty that, because some persons who want to say that our Prabhupada is in Sakyaras, they like to quote Srila Sridhar Maharaj, but he gave that quotation, and then he gave the other quotations where he's saying, no, he's in Madhurya Rasa. So the persons who want to try, they use Srila Sridhar Maharaj as one of their authorities to try to prove. But Mukunda gave all these quotes. Very nice. Very excellent, excellent lecture. I've heard him speak before, but he's really honing it now, and he's so expert at memorizing so many different shlokas and Ujjvala Nilamani and just bringing the whole thing together. Anyway, so I mentioned it the other day, the quotation from Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj that he mentioned, and I had also read it before. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj was commenting on the preaching mission and the phases of the preaching mission. So phase 1, when Prabhupada came, preaching mission in the West, throughout the world. Phase 1, he didn't use that term, but he said that it was decided that the full Madhurya Rasa would not be given in the first installment. Would not be given in the first installment. And we can easily see why. Because who is Srila Prabhupada preaching to? And a lot of them coming from the hippie background, and they would not have been able to properly honor and accommodate. And that's also why Prabhupada became alarmed. You remember, in 75, there was a small group of devotees who were innocently reading Chaitanya Charitamrita because it had now been printed. And on a morning walk, Ramaswar is telling Prabhupada, there's this group, blah, 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 you know. But Prabhupada used the opportunity to give a warning, a strong warning. So there had to be very, very strong warnings given at that time. And we see also why. In course of time, it became very clear why. And, you know, the fall downs of so many devotees. And so the Madhurya Rasa, it was decided, Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, that it would not be given in the first installment. And then Mukunda was explaining that he had heard that because he had studied many of Srila Sridhar Maharaj's lectures and tapes. You know that he didn't get initiated by Prabhupada, although he joined in 75 in LA. And I was there in 75. So he was in the Bhakta program, but then he decided, you can ask him his reasons, but he decided to go back to university and he studied and he missed getting initiated by Prabhupada. So anyway, long story short, many years passed by until 1996. And he had already learned about Srila Narayan Maharaj and was writing to him sometimes. And now that he came to the West, and he came to New Jersey, just not a long distance drive from where he was in Washington, D.C., I think. And he came, and I remember when he came. And he was describing that his first meeting with Gurudev, and it was in the afternoon time, on one of those days that we stayed there 1 week in that house, that this wonderful devotee named Jai Ram Das, older senior devotee who joined in the late 60s in New York, he offered his house for Gurudev and his brand new vehicle, you know, big SUV. And so we used that for that whole first week. So Mukunda came, I think in the middle of that week, or toward the end, one of those two. And he came along with a couple of other of his comrade devotees who had been preaching with Bhakti Tirtha Swami and all that. But he said that when he came and he heard Srila Gurudev's first speaking, you know, he said, Gurudev asked the question, where is Krishna? What is Krishna, Radha and Krishna doing right now? It was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And none of the devotees could say. Then Gurudev began to explain Purvan Lila, the afternoon time Lila. When Mukunda heard that, it just hit him. Now it's time for the second installment. This personality has come to give that, right? So of course, Srila Gurudev, that was how many years ago now? 1996? 20, how many years? Let's see, 96, 2006, 2016. So in 2026, it'll be 30 years. So now it's 28 years from that time. But Gurudev's prachar, his epic journeys around the world, he has instilled and given all the supportive literatures that are required for someone now, not necessarily brand new persons, but they'll also get benefit, but for those who have been chanting for some time and endeavoring to come onto the path of Uttama Bhakti. So for those persons, what Gurudev's installment is there for them. And that's why Srila Gurudev gave so much prominence to Prabhupada disciples, because really he came for them. He came for those who had been practicing quite some time. But as he preached, then many new people came. And by about the year 2000, Gurudev said, I can see that now I will also have to cut jungles. Because when you have that category of persons, you have to address all the misconceptions. and you have to give the process, Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, as given by Rupa Goswami in the beginning of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So, these are the fundamental, foundational books, and they're not just something that we read and we say, yeah, I read that book. No. These books are books that we continually, what's the word? We read them again. We reread these books, and we examine ourselves in relation to the instructions of Rupa Goswami. How much on the path are we? Are we progressing on the path? You know, sometimes it's said that the book that we also have been given by Gurudev, Madhurya Kadambini, is also like a mirror. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur compares it to that. It's like a mirror, that as you study that book and you understand the different stages and so forth and different obstacles, you examine your own progress and what you are failing to do and what you now have to give redoubled effort to follow. So this never ends in our sadhana life. This never ends. Self-examination, Srila Sridhar Maharaj used to say, self-examination has begun, he said. So, to help us and to enliven us, I thought that we would have classes on these two books. And we would study Manasiksha, because I haven't actually ever had a class in which I'm going through the entire book. And so I thought this would be the ideal time. What do you think? Is that a good idea?
Yes.
Yeah, and also Upadeshamrita will review quite a bit. So what I started to do was I started to read Srila Prabhupada's Upadeshamrita, which is titled The Nectar of Devotion. And I became very enlivened. The Nectar of Instruction. And so Srila Prabhupada's preface, very short, it was given, it doesn't say the date, but it was given by him on the Vishwarup Mahotsav day at Krishna Balaram Mandir, Raman Reti, Vrindavan, India. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So here he gives the preface. I'm going to read this. Oh, they already had the artik or not? They did. So this is the Jayadvani. Okay. I think this is that devotee who has the very... Huh? Anadi, yeah. Who has very powerful voice, and he uses that voice in a very, very dramatic way. Yeah. It's almost too much, even for the Bengali devotees, you know. All right. So Prabhupada is telling us that the Krishna consciousness movement is conducted under the supervision of Srila Rupa Goswami. If you ever want to know who is the supervisor of the Krishna consciousness movement going all over the world today, it just so happens to be this one personality. His name is Srila Rupa Goswami. He is the supervisor. The whole movement is conducted under his supervision. We have to get that. Otherwise, we're not qualified to be in this movement. If we don't understand who is the main personality that has given, and where did he get it from? Directly from Mahaprabhu. The whole science of bhakti, the whole science, that's Rupa Goswami. So, Prabhupada continues, he says, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, or Bengali Vaishnavas, are mostly followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of whom the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan are direct disciples. So therefore, Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung, take a guess. Huh? Yeah. Rupa Raghunatha Pade Hoibe Akuti Kabe Hama Buja Bose Jugala Piriti. So, this is the reason why Narottam Das Thakur has sung that when I am eager, eager means akuti, eagerness. When will I become eager to understand the literature given by the Goswamis? Then I shall be able to understand the transcendental loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. Kabehama bujhabo se. Bujhabo means to understand. To understand what? Jugal Priti. The transcendental loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. Jugal Priti. Only when what? Only when I become very intensely eager to study the books given by the 6 Goswamis. So here, Rupa Raghunatha Pade means from Rupa to Raghunatha. It means all 6 Goswamis. You know that, I have a little pastime about that song, Gauranga Balite Habe. So we have all heard Prabhupada's recording over the years when he sings it. Gauranga Balite Habe Pulakasharir Hari Hari Balitena Yane Babenir. Gurudev had us sing that melody in Badger the first year or second year that he came there. Because Gurudev heard Prabhupada singing that melody in Mathura when he would be singing and weeping in the temple room, playing harmonium and singing just to himself in that when he first went there. So Gurudev, when he came to LA, and he first of all came, to Fullerton, and that first week was spent there before he went on his tour up the West Coast. So, but on the first day that Gurudev was there, now he's in the West. This is the first time we're with him in the West. So it's a very great curiosity to us, what is his program going to be like and all of that. We had already been with him quite intensively for about 2 years, off and on.
I thought you want to hear class.
Oh, okay. So, so what was the last thing I said? Huh?
You have been with Gurudev for 2 years already, you're on the tour.
Right. So then Gurudev actually attended the morning program with us in that temple one day. And then he had us sing Jai Radhe, Jai Krishna, Jai Vrindavan as we're going around, Tulsi. Krishnadas Prabhu was there on that tour. So he was the Kirtaniya. Oh, wait, was he? No, maybe he wasn't on that first tour. I had to play Mridanga. We didn't have Mridangawalas galore at that time.
You did that in the temple room or Prabhupada's room?
In the temple room in Fullerton.
Oh, in Fullerton.
The Fullerton Temple. That's where Gurudev was staying. He was accommodated in Fullerton. So then we went on morning walk, and then we came back, and then after the morning walk, Gurudev sat in his quarters, and a bunch of us came into his quarters, and there was like the first darshan on the first day after his arrival. And and by the way, on that morning walk, You know what Gurudev spoke about? Manasiksha. He quoted the verse about the desire for pratishta, pratishta shadrishta. Yeah. And then he asked us, do you know this verse? And what is Raghunath Das Goswami saying? And what is the solution to this problem of the desire for pratishta, like that? So then Gurudev came back, and then it was his first darshan for us, of his just informally speaking. But before he began to speak, he says, Urukram Prabhu, sing Goranga Balite Habe. I thought, oh. Then we need songbook. Gurudev saw that I didn't know it by heart. So he said, you don't know this song? Such an important song in our whole disciplic succession. You should learn this song by heart. Okay, Gurudev, okay. That happened the next day again, where again I had to get the songbook. You should learn. So by the third day, I had sat down and just kept on going over and over and over each of the verses. Of course, we knew them, we had heard them, but to sing it without a reference, sometimes difficult if you're not that familiar with the song. So that's my little pastime with Rupa Raghunatha Pade Hoibe Akuti. So, I'm continuing. Let me just do this with these settings so that it doesn't keep going off. Set the display on 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. All right, so Prabhupada is saying, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in order to bestow upon human society the benediction of the science of Krishna. If anyone wants to know, what did Mahaprabhu appear to bestow upon the human society? Here it's told. The science of Krishna. Prabhupada uses this word science. You know, one time I was with Nemi Maharaj, who's a scientist, educated at Oxford, has a degree, all of that, in the field of science. But one day I had a conversation with him, and he didn't seem to kind of fully agree in that conversation with the term science being used for the Krishna consciousness, right? But then we began to discuss it deeper. And all the different facets that establish something as a science, it's all there. But he hadn't thought about it in those terms, although he had heard Prabhupada telling the science of Krishna consciousness and so forth. And of course, Prabhupada really wanted to crush and defeat Western science and their bogus Darwinian evolutionary theories and all that. So, but truly, Srila Rupa Goswami presented the Krishna consciousness movement as a science. And one of the things is that in a science, you have experimental. You have experiments, research, and all that, and then you have an experiment. And then there's a experimental process established to come to some particular scientific conclusion. And if somebody actually practices that same experimental process in a laboratory, they'll get the same result. That's science, you know. So this is also a science in that regard. Why? That's right. The process is given. Yeah. And when the process is followed properly in this scientific experiment in the realm of consciousness and superconsciousness, then the result is attained. It's called Krishna Prema. So, Prabhupada is telling that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in order to bestow upon human society the benediction of the science of Krishna. The most exalted of all the activities of Lord Krishna are what? His pastimes of conjugal love with the gopis. Of all of Krishna's activities, the most exalted are his pastimes of conjugal love, Madhurya Rasa, with the gopis. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in the mood of Srimati Radharani, the best of the gopis. Therefore, to understand the mission of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and follow in his footsteps, one must very seriously follow in the footsteps of the 6 Goswamis, Sri Rup, Sanatan, Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva, Gopala Bhatta, Das, and Dasa Raghunath. Sri Rupa Goswami was the leader of all the Goswamis, and to guide our activities, he gave us this Upadesha Amrita. Then in parentheses it says the nectar of instruction. He gave us this Upadesha Amrita to follow. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as he left behind him the 8 verses known as Sikshastak, Rupa Goswami gave us Upadesha Amrita so that we may become pure Vaishnavas. In all spiritual affairs, one's first duty is to control his mind and his senses. Yes or no? Is that true in all spiritual affairs? If someone doesn't have that, but they're thinking that they're being given a spiritual process, but they're not being told that they have to learn how to control their mind and senses, guess what? They're getting royally cheated. And that's going on all the time nowadays, where you got bogies coming in the so-called yogis and so forth, and they're just cheating everybody because they're not telling them what they actually have to do in their life to have a spiritual life. And you know, I remember when I first became a devotee and I learned about the 4 regulated principles and all of that, and of course, you all know I had this Christian upbringing and background and everything, but there was one thing that was like, didn't make sense to me. That everything that we were hearing about, that Jesus preached, how you should live, you should do this, you should do that, but people went to church on Sunday, and then after that they just drank beer and watched football games and forgot everything for the next week until they went back to church on Sunday. And to me, there was some kind of impression inside of me that this doesn't seem like we're really following Jesus' instructions, because I just heard them for the last 9 years growing up, and it doesn't seem to me that all these adult people are actually following the instruction of Jesus. Okay, yeah, the instruction that you should believe in him, but how do you prove that you believe in him? You know? So, but it became, the whole process of what Jesus told, it just became degraded into a simple little formula: believe in Jesus and you're saved. That's it. Believe that Jesus is your Savior, he died for you on the cross, and all that, and then you're automatically saved. You go to heaven. Just believe. That's what Christianity is. But it didn't make sense to me. And so there was an element inside of me that was really searching for whatever it was. I had no idea whether it's religious or philosophical or this or that, but there was something inside of me searching. And when I came to the devotees, and I found out these people don't eat meat, fish or eggs, they don't have illicit sex, they don't gamble, and what else? They don't take intoxication. And this is like 1970, you know. And I thought, wow, that's good. I like that. Discipline, because I had read the yoga book, that yoga book that I got, and it had, I think it was even Iyengar or one of those yogis, and all the photos, of the asanas and this and that, and I tried to do all of them. And so mode of goodness was, starting to percolate inside of me, and when I heard that, they have these regulated principles, that if you don't follow them, then you can't properly perform Krishna consciousness process. You can chant, but you have to also follow these. There's a formula. And when I started to follow it, I thought, wow, this is cool. I like this. And they're all doing it. We're all doing it together. And then we go out into the streets and we'd preach and do kirtan and bring new people and then tell them what the process you should try to do. But Srila Prabhupada knew that this is not going to be an easy thing, to come to the West and to tell people, like he was saying, that as soon as I tell the 4 regulative principles, they'll all go away. Prabhupada told that. You remember that? He was talking about how he was foreseeing his preaching mission and how he's going to present everything, but he was somewhat in doubt about the 4 regulative principles, right? And did Prabhupada suddenly give the 4 regulative principles in the beginning? No. He didn't. Prabhupada preached and purified them, did kirtan. Gradually, when he had a few of them that had faith, he could see, now they can receive initiation. So he gave them Harinam initiation. He gave them the spiritual names. And then he gave a lecture. And Hayagriva was also there listening to the lecture. And he said, wow. We kept on hearing Swamiji telling us about any person that, says that they're God, that means that they're a bogus, cheating rascal, right? So Prabhupada was informing his new disciples that there is this class of people that came from India and they've distorted everything and they've cheated everybody and then claimed that they are God. They're Mayavadis, blah, 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 bogus. But then in Prabhupada's lecture, he presented Sakshad Haritve Nasamasta Shastri, but he presented the point that the disciple must accept Sri Guru as good as God. And that was like, wait a minute. Up to this point, he's been telling us such and such. And was this philosophical point properly understood? No, you know why? Because when I joined, 5 years after Prabhupada came, 2 weeks, 3 weeks after I joined, we went to New Vrindavan for Janmashtami and Vyas Puja, and the 4 newly initiated sannyasis were there. I've told this before at New Vrindavan. And they were preaching that Prabhupada is God. That was the whole thing. Yeah. And I had to, there was a devotee, old devotee named Kanupriya. You knew him? He took me for a walk down the winding road that came up to that little house that was turned into a tent. That was New Vrindavan at that time. They didn't have any of the other, any other houses or anything. And he said, yeah, what's going on here? Because this was going on in the temple room. They're preaching like real strongly, Brahmananda and big Brahmananda, and they're Dundas, and Prabhupada is God. And then they're reading from the Nectar of Devotion, certain quotations there. And just see, even after 5 years, that point was not properly understood yet about how Sakshad Hari manifests. But kintu prapoya priya evatasya, like that. So anyway, that was straightened out. Things always had to be straightened out, How did I get onto that point? I was describing... about the regulated principles. But yeah, it's a formula. And really, like even the new Bhakti programs that were developed, we didn't have a new Bhakti program. We were just new. and the other devotees were our teachers, you know. So, but when anyone came and they started to follow, and we would witness this happening to our very self, happening to everybody that came. Anyone that started to follow the formula of 4 regulated principles and chanting 16 rounds and full engagement 24 hours a day with the devotees, within 2-3 weeks, 1 month, and hearing Bhagavad Gita, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam every day, you began to understand, this is it. This is the absolute truth that we never even knew that there existed an absolute truth, but this is it, this is it. The absolute truth, the source of everything, is a person, as we were taught in the Bible. But he's not an old man. He's a very sweet, young, and he has girlfriends, and he has his beloved consorts, and he plays, and everything is transcendental and pure and full of what? Satchid Ananda. Not like the material world. So this would not be properly understood unless somebody began to apply the process in their life and start to become purified and taken off of the platform of what? The lower modes of material nature. Because mostly Western society and Western lifestyles were completely steeped in ignorance. Modes of ignorance and passion. And that's why Prabhupada wrote, when he landed in Boston Harbor, and he wrote that prayer, Markane Bhagavata Dharma, preaching Bhagavad Dharma in America. And the first thing that he said, oh my dear Lord Krishna, you are so merciful to this fallen soul. You have brought me here. But you have brought me to this horrible place, actually. He used the word Ugrastan. Ugra can also mean terrible, horrible. So you've brought me to this horrible place. So I know that you have some purpose because you've brought me here. But I see that most of the population is completely covered by the lower modes of nature, passion and ignorance, Rajagun and Tamagun. I don't know how they will be able to understand this message. Right? Remember that in the prayer? So this is Prabhupada's concern that he was expressing to Krishna in the prayer. And then, a few verses away, he says, but you yourself have stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Sravana Kirtana, those 5 shlokas, which is the whole process. Gurudev said, those 5 shlokas are telling us the entire process. And Gurudev would always have me stand up and tell them because I had memorized those 5 shlokas. So, and that's what Prabhupada did. He began Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna from scratch with everybody who came through the door. And he began to chant the holy names of Krishna. Yeah? Because what's the first installment? Chetudarpana Marjanam. Their hearts will be cleansed by the holy names. And once their hearts become a little bit cleansed, then what happens? Nashtak prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya. Now they can enter into Bhagavat Seva. Once their heart has been somewhat cleansed. Because Krishna cleanses the heart for someone who hears about him from the pure devotees. Then Krishna himself starts to clean. So that's the phenomena that actually took place, and it's been witnessed 1,000,000 times over now, all throughout the world. Anyone, any country, any background, even cannibal, even dog eaters, they can become devotees. They can become purified. So the formula, as we just heard the other day very nicely about how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he made this formula, Daivi Varnashram, and Prabhupada instituted it in the West and then all over the world. So Prabhupada wanted that there would be some significant purification. Oh, I forgot to say about the day after initiation, the devotees woke up and posted there, I think outside Srila Prabhupada's room, up the stairs, outside of his room was posted with a thumbnail, thumbtack, his statement that all initiated devotees should follow the following rules and regulations. You know that one? And then signed, your ever will-wisher A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. It's in his handwriting. We have photos of that. You never saw that? Oh my God. This is one of the most historical relics of all time. And then he described the regulated principles, when everyone must get up for arti, everyone has to stop frivolous games and stuff. He gave the rules. And the devotees are like, you know. It took him a while to kind of like apply it, but gradually, it became applied. The rising early, all of that, and chanting 16 rounds. That's how it happened. That's how Mahaprabhu's movement began to go worldwide. Only because the devotees were following that process. Okay? So, as an overall, like, we had understanding and impressions because we were also reading the books, and Prabhupada had also given the nectar of devotion. But the Upadeshamrita, which crystallized it, we didn't get it until back in 75. And I thought, wow, what a formula. 6 things that you have to learn to tolerate. 6 urges. 6 activities that you have to avoid, otherwise your bhakti will be destroyed. 6 activities you must perform, otherwise your bhakti cannot move forward. 6 types of ways that you should associate with the Vaishnavas. 6, 6, 6, 6. Then comes the 5th shlok, which is telling about the 3 levels of Vaishnavas and how to honor the 3 levels of Vaishnavas. Then the 6th shlok, what's the 6th one again? Yes, Syat Krishna Nama. Are you sure? That's the 7th.
No tendency to criticize. Big shots to check.
Yeah, Drishtai Svabhava Janitair Vapushashta Dosa is the 6th. Because now, after you've been told in the 5th shloka, now the Mahabhagavad has been introduced. How should you associate with him? Don't judge him from a material point of view. Otherwise, you're going to commit Vaishnava Parad and then everything will be destroyed. 7th shlok. Okay, now you gotta put your nose to the grindstone and chant. That's the message. The 7th shloka is preparing you for the 8th shloka. And if you don't do that, you'll never be able to do the 8th shloka of the Upadeshamrita, which is the essence of all advice. That's the Ragmarg path. You can't come onto that unless you do the 7th shloka, which is very arduous, very not easy. Not easy. Is it easy for a person that has jaundice to take sugar candy? It's bitter tasting. It's not pleasant. But it's the medicine. And if you take that, I mean, I've talked with devotees that actually cured themselves by drinking the syrup from the rock candy, the soaked in water, drinking that. And they described how they experienced that. At first bitter, then a little bit sweet, then a little bit more sweet, like that. So Rupa Goswami is using that exact example, that it is going to take concerted effort. And that effort will have to be in Hari Nam Bhajan. There is no other process. It's called Hari Nam Bhajan. And only then can you start to become qualified to do Shuddha Bhakti, pure Bhakti, everything will be cleansed away. There's so many quotations by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur affirming this fact, even just recent ones that I've read and shared, and oh, so much on this, how there has to be this very strong effort to do Harinam Bhajan. And then comes the 8th slok. Now, I think that Srila Prabhupada also didn't want the Upadeshamrita to come to his disciples too early, because some of them would have read that and said, I'm getting out of here. I'm going to Radha Kund. I'm going to do Nirjan Bhajan on the banks of Radha Kund. You know? So, anyway, the Upadeshamrita is the essential. Gurudev said, you have to follow each one of these shlokas, from the 1st to the 8th, and then you can begin to follow the 9th, 10th, and 11th regarding the superior position of Radha Kunda, the superior position of who are the personalities that Krishna is performing pastimes with at Radha Kunda, the gopis, and ultimately Srimati Radhika. So the preeminence of Srimati Radhika is loudly announced in those last 3 shlokas by Rupa Goswami. And so Radha Dasyam, everyone is being prepared for that. But now, how to do that? Mana Siksha. That's how you do Radha Dasyam. So, we're going to read these books. We're going to get the nectar of devotion. So Prabhupada says, in all spiritual affairs, one's first duty is to control his mind and senses. And unless one controls his mind and senses, one cannot make any advancement in spiritual life. Everyone within this material world is engrossed in the modes of passion and ignorance. And one must promote himself to the platform of goodness, sattva gun, by following the instructions of Rupa Goswami. And then everything concerning how to make further progress will be revealed. Advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. Right? Can you just have a lackadaisical attitude? No. It depends. If you want to advance, it depends on your attitude. The attitude of the follower. A follower of the Krishna consciousness movement should become a perfect Goswami. Vaishnavas are generally known as Goswamis. And in Vrindavan, this is the title by which the director of each temple is known. One who wants to become a perfect devotee of Krishna, he must become a Goswami. Go means the senses, and Swami means the master. So unless one controls his senses and mind, one cannot become a Goswami. So to achieve the highest success in life, here's how he ends his preface. To achieve the highest success in life by becoming a Goswami and then a pure devotee of the Lord, one must follow the instructions known as Upadeshamrita, which have been given by Srila Rupa Goswami. And Srila Rupa Goswami has given many other books, such as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Vidagdha Madhava, and Lalita Madhava, but Upadeshamrita constitutes the first instructions for neophyte devotees. One should follow these instructions very strictly. Then it will be easier to make one's life successful. Hare Krishna. That's Prabhupada's preface. Yes. So then Srila Prabhupada goes directly into the first verse, and we'll just briefly read this because we're at the ending now. You can repeat Vacho Vegam, Manasakroda Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udaropasta Vegam, Etan Vegan, Yo Vishaheta, Dhira, Sarvam, Apimam, Pritivim, Sashishyat. So, a sober person, sober mean dhira, a sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals, is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So I remember Gurudev was talking about Upadeshamrita one time, because you know what Gurudev would do? Like at the end of Kartik, sometimes he would come back in the early days to Rup Sanatan, and then he'd just say, okay, do you know the first verse of Upadeshamrita? And he would just have everybody go through the whole 11 verses. And I remember Gurudev told one time that one devotee of his in Bombay, I think it was, approached him, one of his disciples. Oh, Gurudev, I want to hear some nectar from you about Krishna and the gopis and Vraj, Leela, like that. And Gurudev asked him, do you know the first shloka of Upadeshamrita? No, Gurudev. Learn the first slok and follow it. And then learn the other slokas and follow them. And then you will become qualified to hear about Krishna and his Leela and pastimes with the gopis. So, this first shloka is talking about Vega. Vega, there was a car named Vega. It failed miserably. But a Vega means an urge to do something. A vague is like some, and Prabhupada used the term pushing. The pushing. You're being pushed by these six. If someone cannot learn to tolerate that pushing, that urge, and become dhira, sober, fixed, then there's no possibility that they can make proper advancement in any spiritual pathway, what to speak of Krishna consciousness movement. So Prabhupada is telling that in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 6th canto, 1st chapter, verses 9 and 10, Parikshit Maharaj placed a number of intelligent questions before Shukadev Goswami. And one of these questions was, why do people undergo atonement if they cannot control their senses? You know this term, atonement? Yeah, in Sanskrit it's called prayaschitta, but in Western terminology it has been applied, especially in the Catholic religion, where they had atonements. You did a sinful activity, okay, you have to atone for it. You have to pray so many Hail Marys. You have to give such and such amount of money, donation, like that. That gradually turned into a super cheating process, you know. And the thing is that in the Catholic religion, they have what's called confession. And they have a booth that you go into the booth, and there's a curtain that comes across, so nobody knows you're in there. And then there's another curtain there where there's a priest who's sitting across from you, and there's a curtain, and there's like some table in between. And so the person comes in there, and what do they do? You ever heard about this, what they do in Catholicism? Yeah. Oh, Father, I've sinned. Yes, my dear son. What sins have you done? I did this, and I did this, and I did this. And, you know. And so, okay, now you do this. Now you chant the Hail Mary on the rosary beads so many times, and then you give a donation to the church of X amount, and what else would they say? Whatever. They gave them, this was their atonement they had to do. And then, what it turned into in the European history, you can see that the Catholic religion, they really went downhill, and they started selling what were called indulgences. You ever heard of that? You ever heard of that before? It was called an indulgence. What it is a certificate that you have to pay a certain amount of money, which then gives you permission to indulge in a sinful activity.
Like the carbon tax is going to be, you can pay again if he's going to.
That's why Martin Luther rebelled.
That's right. Oh yeah, it was really bad. You know, so anyway, Shukadev Goswami was questioned by Maharaj Parikshit, why do people undergo atonement if they cannot control their senses? For instance, Prabhupada is explaining, a thief may know perfectly well that he may be arrested for his stealing, and he may actually even see that a thief is arrested by the police, yet he continues to steal. So experience is gathered by hearing and by seeing. So one who is less intelligent, they gather experience by seeing. One who is more intelligent gathers experience by hearing. So when an intelligent person hears from the law books and the shastras or the scriptures that stealing is not good, and he hears that a thief is punished when he's arrested, then he refrains from theft. A less intelligent person may first have to be arrested and punished for stealing to learn to stop stealing. However, a rascal, a foolish man, may have the experience of both hearing and seeing and may even be punished. Still, he continues to steal. So even if such a person atones and is punished by the government, he will again commit theft as soon as he comes out of jail. Do we see that happening? Oh, yeah. Huh? Yeah. Yeah. Now, if punishment in jail is considered atonement, then what is the benefit of such atonement? So thus, Parikshit Maharaj inquired, Drishta Shrutabhyam Yat Papam Janan Apyatmano Hitam Karoti Bhuyo Vivasha Prayashchitta Matokatam Kvachin Nivartate Badrat Kvachich Charati Tat Puna Prayashchitta Mato Partam Manye Kunjara Shochavat. Do you know the meaning of Kunjara? It means an elephant. And Shochavat means how the elephant bathes. So, Manye Kunjara Shochavat. Parikshit Maharaj is saying, I think that this is like the bathing of the elephant. Because when the elephant bathes, what does he do when he comes out onto the bank? Huh? Yeah, he takes his trunk and he anoints himself with dirt again, all over his body. So he compared atonement to an elephant's bathing. The elephant may take a very nice bath in the river, but as soon as it comes onto the bank, it throws dirt all over its body. So what then is the value of its bathing? I think I'm going to look on YouTube for a video of this, of elephants throwing dirt on themselves, just so that I can visualize. Yeah. So, what then is the value of its bathing? So similarly, many spiritual practitioners, they chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and at the same time they commit many forbidden things, thinking that their chanting will counteract their offenses. Right? Do we see that? Sometimes we think that also. Yes. Chanting will counteract their offenses. Now, of the 10 types of offenses that one can commit while chanting the holy name of the Lord, this offense, it is called Namno Balad Yasya Hi Papa Buddhi. That means committing sinful activities on the strength of chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And similarly, certain Christians go to church to confess their sins, thinking that confessing their sins before a priest and performing some penance will relieve them from the results of their weekly sins. But as soon as Saturday is over and Sunday comes, they then again begin their sinful activities. Oh, he must have been preaching to Jewish people because they follow Saturday. So Prabhupada wrote that. As soon as Saturday is over and Sunday comes. But for the Christians, as soon as Sunday is over, then Monday comes. So they expect to be forgiven the next Saturday. So they begin to do their sinful activities for a whole week. Then the next Saturday they can get forgiven again. What's this called? It's called insurance. You're paying insurance, right? For an insurance policy. This kind of prayaschitta, or atonement, is condemned by Parikshit Maharaj, who is the most intelligent king of his time. Shukdev Goswami, equally intelligent, as befitting the spiritual master of Maharaj Parikshit, answered the king and confirmed that his statement concerning atonement was correct. A sinful activity cannot be counteracted by a pious activity. Thus, real prayaschitta, atonement, is the awakening of our dormant Krishna consciousness. That's real prayaschitta. Real atonement involves coming to real knowledge. How are you going to do real atonement? Unless you come to real knowledge. So, and for this, there is a standard process. So when one follows a regulated, hygienic process, he does not fall sick. A human being is meant to be trained according to certain principles to revive his original knowledge. Such a methodical life is described as tapasya. Such a methodical life is described as tapasya. One can be gradually elevated to the standard of real knowledge or to Krishna consciousness by practicing austerity and celibacy, brahmacharya, by controlling the mind, by controlling the senses, by giving up one's possessions in charity, by being avowedly truthful, by keeping clean, by practicing yoga asanas. However, if one is fortunate enough to get the association of a pure devotee, he can easily surpass all the practices for controlling the mind by the mystic yoga process simply by following the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness. What is that? Refraining from illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. And, on top of that, by engaging in the service of the Supreme Lord under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master. This easy process is being recommended by Srila Rupa Goswami. So, first, one must control his speaking power. That's the first thing, controlling the speaking power. Every one of us has the power of speech. We don't realize how important this one is. Gurudev would always highlight this whenever he would discuss this, Vacho Vegam. And what examples would he use from the Shastras? Who was not controlling their power of speech, at least outwardly. Sita Devi and Draupadi. The two big wars, they were started because these two ladies, they very, very angrily and almost cruelly insulted. In the case of Sita, insulted Lakshman. In the case of Draupadi, insulted Duryodhana, which now gave fuel to the fire for this gradual fratricidal war that would culminate after many years, Battle of Kurukshetra. So here's Prabhupada saying, as soon as we get an opportunity, we begin to speak. And if we do not speak about Krishna consciousness, then we speak about all sorts of nonsense. A toad in a field, he speaks by croaking. And similarly, everyone who has a tongue wants to speak, even if all he has to say is nonsense. The croaking of the toad, however, simply invites who? The snake. Please come here and eat me. So nevertheless, although it is inviting death, the toad goes on croaking. So the talking of materialistic men and the impersonalist Mayavadi philosophers may be compared to the croaking of frogs. They are always speaking nonsense, and thus they are inviting death to catch them. Controlling speech, however, it does not mean self-imposed silence. Like what? Like the external process of mauna, as Mayavadi philosophers think, just to be silent. Silence may appear helpful for some time, but ultimately it proves to be a failure. So the meaning of the controlled speech conveyed by Srila Rupa Goswami advocates that the positive process of Krishna Katha, engaging the speaking process in glorifying the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. The tongue can thus glorify the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord. So the preacher of Krishna Katha is always beyond the clutches of death. This is the significance of controlling the urge to speak. And then the restlessness or fickleness of the mind, manovega, is controlled when one can fix his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. So that's our entry into the Upadeshamrita today. And in our class on Tuesday, and then our class on Thursday, we'll continue to move forward in both of these books. So, any comments, any questions?
In the beginning, you mentioned you were reading the preface, and Prabhupada said that this Krishna consciousness movement is under the supervision of Rupa Goswami.
Mm-hmm.
So some may argue that, anyway, I was reading something that said that Srila Prabhupada is the founder acharya of ISKCON. So the Krishna consciousness movement has a broader understanding than their understanding, is what I'm saying. Right? If the supervisor is Rupa Goswami,
Mm-hmm. But were they saying anything against that principle? What exactly were they saying?
criticizing others for saying that Srila Prabhupada is not the founder of ISKCON.
Not the founder of ISKCON.
Well, the founder of Acharya, that ISKCON is a broader, well, that ISKCON is simply another name of the Krishna consciousness movement.
Well, that's true. That's true. Well, yeah, it is true. Because ISKCON is an institution. The founder of an institution may not necessarily be the founder of the whole movement, and that's the last thing that Prabhupada would ever admit to, that he's the founder of the Krishna consciousness movement. No. Everywhere Prabhupada writes, Founder is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The founder is ultimately Lord Krishna himself, you know. But in terms of the Western preaching mission, no question. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is the founder, Acharya, of that institution, which he guided over the years and has successfully expanded the Krishna consciousness movement onto all the different continents all throughout the world. And so we admit that, of course, you know. And even in the current condition, after his leaving this world, he instituted a managerial board so that the movement could continue as an institution. You have to have that. And despite the fact that prior to Prabhupada's disappearance, he was overseeing all the meetings, the conclusions that they reached, his fledgling neophyte disciples who were appointed by him as GBC members. He oversaw, and sometimes they made disastrous decisions which Prabhupada immediately canceled out, you know. But after Prabhupada left the planet, unfortunately, these persons, many of them were still quite neophyte, and now they began to really think that they're the all-in-all. And they even opposed a personality who was the Siksha guru of the entire Gaudiya Math mission and one of the topmost disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who was even the Siksha guru of the founder of ISKCON himself. And that is Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj. But then these this managerial position that they had of making decisions regarding the ongoing preservation of the movement and promotion of the movement, now they started imagining that they're going to make decisions. What is our proper understanding of Siddhanta? And then all hell broke loose. And it still hasn't stopped. It just goes on and on and on. So that's why the Upadeshamrita is so essential. And the books of Rupa Goswami and everything is clarified. What is the process? But the problem is that the conditioned souls, they begin to apply some process in their life, but then their uncontrolled mind and their uncontrolled senses start to speculate and imagine that something that they see as being the process is really the process, without reference to what Sri Guru and the Guru Parampara have said. And then they gradually invent a whole different application of the process. I mean, in our private conversations, we could go over many examples of how this took place over decades, and it still continues to go on. Because the fertile speculative processes and not being able to control their senses, they start to indulge their senses against the principles that have been told, but yet they, what's the word? They, not condone, they qualify. They try to use the authority of different statements that were made by Guru or by this Vaishnava or that Vaishnava to be the basis upon which they're going to decide how to follow the process. And that's when apasampradayas start. So the apasampradayas are the antipathy of the Upadeshamrita. Either you're following the Upadeshamrita or you're following an apasampradaya. Either you're following Upadeshamrita and striving toward true Shuddha Bhakti, Uttama Bhakti, or you're following the whims of your senses and mind and concocting a different process that works for you, that you can resonate with. I love that word, resonate, you know? So we see, it never ends. So anyway, no doubt about it. The greater Krishna consciousness movement, Gurudev used to say that all the time. What is ISKCON? Even Srila Sridhar Maharaj would say, what is ISKCON? It means Srila Vyasadeva. It means Narada Rishi. They are members of ISKCON. Because ISKCON is the Krishna consciousness movement. And there's one very interesting thing that was revealed in this Prabhupada Nuga magazine that came out back when the centennial was coming. And they actually had a section there where devotees would make comments and write little letters to address the audience. And Achyutananda, he wrote there in that Prabhupada Nuga that he was present when Prabhupada incorporated ISKCON. He was physically present there. And he remembers that when Srila Prabhupada was going through the necessary steps to complete the incorporation of ISKCON, that Prabhupada mentioned at that time, he says, so now we are establishing this institution, ISKCON, but if this does not, I forget the exact words, but if this does not succeed in some way and it starts to deviate and so forth, then we can disband this and start another institution. Yeah? Right on day one. As they were going through the legal with the lawyer and this and that to incorporate ISKCON. So Prabhupada's vision was never narrow. But at the same time, he wanted that his institution would be the beacon light for the whole world. That it would be following all the established acharyas' instructions and conclusions and living properly according to the instructions of Rupa Goswami and 6 Goswamis, you know, and especially his own instructions. But what then occurred is what's called interpretation. Prabhupada said, and even Prabhupada heard about the Prabhupada saids and made a comment upon the Prabhupada saids. I was reading a quote from Prabhupada. And it was just like dismissing it entirely. Oh yes, and they will say, Prabhupada said, you know. So neophyte devotees always extrapolate in that way, and they come to the wrong conclusions, and then they say, yeah, but Prabhupada said. So we want to be strict followers. That is the pathway to success. If we're not strict and we're loosey-goosey, then what happens? You're not following the first verse of Upadeshamrita. Neither are you following the second verse or the third verse, and you'll be nowhere. So that's why these books have been given for all future generations of Vaishnavas until the end of Kali Yuga. You know, these will be the authorized instructions and the instruction manuals that we will have to follow. So, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Shri Upadeshamritam ki jai, Srila Rupa Goswami Pada ki jai, Shri Manasiksha ki jai, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami Pada ki jai, Shri Ekadasi Titi ki jai, Madhavi Titi ki jai, Ekadasi Vrata ki jai, Ekadasi Vrata Palan Kori Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Brindai Tulsidebai Priyai Keshavasyacha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Nama Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevaja Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat Pranams. You see this microphone stand? It goes like this because the center, you put it too low. It has to be a little bit up. Otherwise, it will go like this, unstable.